We all can agree that decarbonization is important for greener environment. Thus, the need of the day is to discuss advanced battery chemistry. Distinguished delegates, eminent speakers, experts from the industry, fellow ICATians, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. I, Astha Divedi, on the behalf of International Center for Automotive Technology and Aspire Management, in association with SANIS, extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining in the webinar on the advanced battery chemistry and its validation. International Center for Automotive Technology, ICAT, located in Northern Automotive Hub of India, is a leading world-class automotive testing, certification, and R&D service provider under the aegis of NATRIP, Government of India. Aspire is a technology platform. Aspire stands for Automotive Solutions Portal for Industry, Research, and Education. Aspire has taken an initiative of conducting the webinars on various topics, which is a part of celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which marks the 75th anniversary of our independence. It further reinforces a commitment towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission in the technology area. It is our privilege to have you all with us today for this webinar. Through this webinar, we have set a virtual stage to connect the industry, to indulge and acquaint ourselves with emerging advanced battery chemistries and trends. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now commence towards a welcome ceremony. I would like to request Srimati Pamela Tikku, Senior General Manager and Chief Business Officer, ICAT, for delivering the welcome address. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Asta. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ICAT, I would like to extend hearty and warm welcome to all the participants of this webinar. This webinar today is being organized on a topic which is of not only national importance but also global importance, and it is on advanced battery chemistry and its validation. It gives me an immense pleasure that we are going to talk about this advanced battery chemistry topic, which is going to be very important parameter for ushering in the electric mobility in the country, and hence has a very important role for the success of EV mobility. As you are aware, that Government of India has taken and resolved under Atmanirbhar Bharat Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to develop and create self-reliance in technology and in manufacturing. The objective of government is to make India self-reliant, not be dependent for any other country for the success of its economic growth. And one such initiative which government has recently taken is they have announced a PL, production linked incentive scheme for advanced chemistry, wherein battery manufacturing will be supported by government incentive of by incentive program of to the tune of 10,000 crores. I'm sure that many manufacturers and many national and international players will be benefited by such announcement and will enable the development of batteries in India. Energy storage is the game changer for the new electric mobility solutions. Unless and until we have a battery solution, which is, if not better than the ICE engine performance, but at least at par with the ICE engine performance, both in terms of efficiency as well as in terms of ease of handling, then only the electric mobility is going to be a successful mobility option for people at large, not only for India but globally also. There are several forecasts which are being talked about, that by 2040 about 57% of passenger vehicle sales will be electric. and they will represent 30% of the global vehicle fleet. So that's a large number of electric vehicles that we are talking of. Currently, the electric vehicle penetration is very, very low globally. In India, it is almost to a negligible scale, but with the new incentive programs, with the new national and global energy policy targets, this landscape is changing. We are seeing that a lot of manufacturers who were not talking about electric vehicle 2 to 3 years back are very seriously developing electric vehicles in India. So we have to, for this achieving these targets of electrification, battery is of a prime importance. So battery has to meet the requirement of the vehicle, requirement of the country, requirement of the user. So there are different kind of users, and for those different users, the battery technology has to be of equivalent, if not better, performing technology as compared to ICE technology. We are sure that currently a lot is being talked about battery chemistry, wherein lithium-ion based battery chemistry is being talked about. We are all aware that lithium-ion batteries again are import dependent. Cells are being imported and cells will be imported, and only the battery manufacturing is going to happen in the country. So while that's the near-term solution, if we have to have a successful electric mobility program in the country, but in the long run, India should and must look at alternative battery chemistries, wherein our dependence to outside India is minimal and minimized, and hence then it will be in true sense it will be self-reliant in this particular. I'm sure this is going to happen because it's not going to happen overnight. It might take 15, 20 years. But if we start talking and thinking about it today, I'm sure 15 years, 20 years down the line, we will have a battery chemistry wherein we don't have to be dependent on sources and resources outside. And ICAT has set up a very important facility for battery testing. So we are doing battery testing, we are doing battery validation. So we have battery emulators. We are doing both compliance as well as performance testing. And I'm sure if it would not have been in COVID pandemic situation, which we are currently facing for last 2 years, you would have been able to witness these facilities and see these facilities physically on our own campuses when we would have organized this webinar or seminar in our campus. And then that would have given you a first-hand experience as to what kind of infrastructure we have created to support battery development, battery validation. I would also like to touch upon one particular aspect today, that under the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, government has taken various steps towards this Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. And ICAT under Department of Heavy Industry has started a technology platform called Aspire. Under this, the objective is to bring solution seekers and solution providers on board on one platform, wherein industry can pose their problems and there are experts in the academia or industry who can come forward to address those problems. For example, battery chemistry is a big problem for the country. And we have tried to launch a challenge, grand challenge on battery chemistry. But unfortunately, we do not get enough participants. We do not get any participant to participate. This is an area where government is willing to fund the research part. Government is willing to fund 80% of the cost of the product development, and with the contribution of 20% from the industry. So today, if somebody wants to do real basic research on new battery chemistry, so there are options and avenues available. We may not be successful in the first go. We may not achieve 100% success. We may achieve 20%, but that's the first step towards the success. So my request to all the participants today is that do take this opportunity and do take this provision which the government has put in front of you. if you are wanting to get into some research with ICAT, ICAT can enable that through this Aspire portal, where government is willing to fund 80% of the project cost and 20% through the industry contribution. I'm sure the deliberations today, which have been lined up for this particular topic, will be beneficial to all the participants. And if in case they have any queries, they have any questions which have not been answered, they are most welcome to send us by email or visit us so we can address those issues in person. I would like to thank ICAT team under Dr. Joshi, Udit Kaul, who have put up this webinar today on a very important and interesting topic of advanced battery chemistry and its validation for all of you. I once again thank all the speakers, all the participants who are present virtually amongst us today for this webinar. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Jai Hind and a very happy Diwali to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. We will start with the main presentation now. We have 3 presentations followed by question and answer session. If you have any question during presentation, I would request you all to kindly write them in question answer session with the name of the speaker they are addressed to. We will take those questions on your behalf at the end of presentation. I would now request all the speakers of the presentation to kindly keep their presentation ready. I'm sure the immense knowledge in the presentation will give us better understanding on advanced battery chemistry and its validation. For the first presentation of the session, please join me to welcome Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar, Director International Business Technology at Mr. Bhatnagar presents Sanvaru Technology Limited, Director International Business, New and Emerging Technologies like lithium battery packs for EVs, ESS, solar, and to achieve SD7 targets for a carbon neutral, greener world. He is associated with battery industry for more than 25 years. He was instrumental in setting up SMS VRLA battery division at Okaya as Vice President. He was responsible for setting up complete battery manufacturing, greenfield projects with Artheon Battery Co. Limited, which was a joint venture with North Star Battery USA. He also worked with Energy Division of Micromax, Bhagwati Products Limited as a country head. We welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to Ms. Pamela for a wonderful introduction of the session and a very good start. My regards to all distinguished guests and friends, ladies and gentlemen. So my introduction is already given. So I will start with a brief on my company. First thing I want to tell you that I started my career as a pilot with Indian Air Force. So I used to fly planes earlier. Then due to some medical issue, I left Air Force and came to the civil life. So last 25 years, I am in battery line, doing lead acid earlier, then different technologies. Now for last 8 years, I am doing lithium. My company name is Sanvaru Technology Limited, and this company was floated in 2014. And this company is doing only lithium batteries. We are not doing anything else apart from lithium. So it is a dedicated facility, and we are a design innovation company. We are doing batteries for solar ESS storage is the main focus area. Initially, when we started, this government scheme was there, Saubhagya scheme. So we did a lot of batteries for solar street light, solar home light, other things like rural electrification. So we do a lot of batteries, even for microgrids we do, and other things we do. And in electric vehicles, we do batteries for mainly for 3-wheelers, e-passenger and e-auto, e-loader, L5 and all that. So that is the main focus area, and that sector is growing very fast presently. It is doing very good, wonderful growth is there. So that sector we are catering. Apart from that, we have developed batteries for electric tractors, pure electric tractor and hybrid electric tractor. We have even developed a battery for a electric truck. which is a big construction truck. We have developed that also. So we are a design innovation company. We take interest in such developments. We are doing batteries for AGVs and other applications. So many applications are there. We are doing domestic and export both. Now that was a brief description about our company. Sorry. I now come to the main topic. So we start with our advanced chemistry cell topic, which is a very interesting topic. So I will load my this thing screen. Just 1 second. Huh? Okay, so this is there. Now, interesting thing is that all of us are very much known about earlier lead acid batteries, then lithium batteries, and in lithium we are well aware about lithium iron phosphate and about the NCM technology. So all these technologies have their plus minus and everything, and last 3-4 years India is seeing these batteries are being used widely in solar and EVs. So today topic is mainly on EV, so I will focus more on EV. I will not talk much of solar. So this technology you see mostly what is happening in two-wheelers generally, because there is an issue of energy density. So people are going for NCM technology because there the energy density is better, because cell voltage is 3.7 there. But if you talk of other application like e-rickshaw or e-auto or loader or other applications, then people go for lithium iron phosphate, because there the cycle life is much more, the battery is much more safe, and all these things are there. So that battery is more stable, and seeing to hot temperatures in India, that battery is very good. So it is basically choice in energy density and cycle life. So how it goes, one has to select. But market is good, and we all are using these batteries. Now, what is the negative point here basically is that all these lithium cells are being imported. So we don't have any control, and we do battery assembling or manufacturing, whatever you say, we do in India. So maybe some BMS and other things we make ourselves, or that also we import, and we make it as per Indian conditions, as per Indian requirement, and we give local guarantees, warranties, and all that. Because mostly in FAME scheme, warranty is 3 years for all the batteries. So you have to maintain that. So that kind of quality you have to produce, and then you have to maintain that kind of warranty. So those points are there. So the challenge, what we were discussing, and Ms. Pamela also covered earlier, that it is import dependent. Basically, a lot of imports are involved, and it is not favoring anyway the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan in that case. So government has come up with the advanced battery chemistry thing, advanced chemistry cell basically. So this ACC is being now a focus area. So Niti Aayog promoted it, and Ministry of Highway and this thing, heavy industry, and other ministries, they are taking full care that it is promoted well, and a lot of incentives are being provided under different scheme for ACC and for PLI and like that. The FAME scheme is for vehicles, and for production there are different schemes. So these chemistries are there. So there are many chemistries which are coming, but we can't discuss all the chemistries in such a short span. So I will cover mostly sodium ion technology, which is advanced chemistry cell technology, and which will help us in localizing our raw material from India. Because in this chemistry, we can get all the raw material from India. So that is a big plus point there. So a lot of people are working in that. So I will cover to that. So one by one, we will cover all the slides. So basically, all this come under SDG 7, because we are working on affordable and clean energy system. So SDG 7 is most important to us. So these goals are set by United Nations to cut down emission level, to cut down the global temperatures. You see a lot of floods are coming, cloudbursts are happening because this temperature is rising. So this temperature is creating a lot of problem everywhere, and we all have to take care of it, how to reduce it. So we have to reduce the thermal plants, and we have to work on other things where carbon emission is taking place, and we have to work on greener and cleaner technologies. So production by solar, or production by wind, or production by hydel, or other techniques which are renewable energies. So that will help. and similarly storing this technology in a cleaner battery. Because if you talk of lead acid, again, lead is a pollutant, and the acid, which is sulfuric acid, is again a pollutant, and life is very low. So a lot of recycling is happening in lead acid. So if you talk of lithium and other technologies, the life cycle is close to 2000, 2500 cycles. So life is close to 10 years. Okay. And they don't use any acid and everything, or mostly, most of them are organic compounds basically. So it is a sort of good battery selection compared to that. So advanced chemistry cell and its application in EV is the topic of discussion today. So first we understand small about three kinds of vehicles, just a brief basically of 1 minute. So we have a battery electric vehicle, which is known as pure electric vehicle. Pure electric in the sense that it is running only on battery. There is no engine, there is no fuel tank, nothing like that. And you have a battery pack here basically, and it runs on battery. Like world example is Tesla and other car companies in India. Tata and Mahindra are doing the same thing. So we have a pure electric vehicle which works on pure electric, and you have a motor and a onboard charger, and all those accessories are there. So this is the kind of concept which we are looking, because here the emission is zero, right? Then we have a fuel cell electric vehicle. Fuel cell electric vehicle generally works on hydrogen and other fuels. So this is also very good technology. We will discuss because it also comes under ACC. So I will have a small brief on that also before coming to sodium ion in our next slides. So here what is happening, we have hydrogen tank stored along with a lithium battery. So the hydrogen tank is there, and there is a lithium battery also to charge. And then this is the most clean fuel. Why it is clean fuel? Because its output is only water. Once you use this hydrogen, so the byproduct is water. So there is no problem of emission or any recycling issues, because only water will come out of it. So this is another technology which is coming up very nicely. Then we have a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle where you have a battery, but it is supported by engine. So you run on a battery, and you can take help of engine when required. So some power electronics, electric motors are there, and this is a plug where from you can charge your battery. So this is known as plug-in hybrid, because it is not pure electric, but it is plug-in hybrid. Like you can say it is mild hybrid. So this is another comparison where I have shown you the hybrid, plug hybrid we have discussed. And then there is one more category which is known as mild hybrid. In mild hybrid, you have a battery, but you don't have a plug-in to charge. So that battery is charged by when car is running on your start or stop or some braking or regenerative braking, the battery will charge. So that is known as mild hybrid. So this is a basic brief on electric vehicles. Because we are discussing advanced chemistry cell which is related to electric vehicles. So I have given a small brief so that we are clear at what we are discussing. So these are the new technologies in advanced chemistry cell which are coming apart from lithium ion. So lithium we all know, so I am not going to discuss that basically. And we will discuss other technologies like sodium ion, aluminum air, fuel cell, supercapacitors are there, carbon graphene is there, solid states are there. There are many of them, right? So I have jotted down the important one which are coming to India very fast, right? So top three is our interest area. Aluminum air and aluminum ion is being promoted by Indian Oil Corporation. So they have a joint venture with Finergy of Israel, and they have taken technology from there. They are working on other technologies also. So this will come in a large scale, and it is a good technology in the sense because aluminum is available in India. So we have a lot of bauxite mines, we have a lot of aluminum factories making aluminum. So this is a local raw material available with us. So it is a very good thing. And Indian Oil is such a big corporation, so they can definitely do wonders. They have such a big infra all over India. So every few kilometers you see a Indian Oil petrol pump. So aluminum air can do wonders. So that is one technology which is coming. Another technology which is coming and of late is given very high importance is your hydrogen technology. So this hydrogen technology is also very good technology in the sense it is the most clean technology, because your input is only hydrogen and oxygen or maybe air or water. and output is also again water, right? So here what you do, you have electrolyzers, and this electrolyzer will segregate hydrogen and it give you as a fuel. So this is the fuel of future. Presently, it is doing slightly slow because of cost factors. Because presently, it is costing close to $4 to $5 a kg. So this cost is not viable. But we all industrialists are working to reduce the cost, and companies like Reliance are working on a challenge of $1 per kg. So that they plan to do in another 7 to 8 years or maybe 10 years. But I think most probably the cost will come down to $2 at least in coming 2-3 years, and it will be most viable solution once it comes in. Most clean fuel is available, and you have no raw material basically in the metal form or other forms, and you just need a electrolyzer, or people do from alkaline electrolyzer, or you can have a PEM electrolyzer. So there are 2-3 methods to electrolyze this thing to generate hydrogen. So China and all these Asian countries are mostly working on alkaline theory, and some European countries are working on PEM theory. So PEM is polymer electrolyte basically. So it is a membrane, slightly expensive membrane because it is made of iridium or some other rare earth metal, slightly expensive, but good technology. So there are many more technologies which are there. So cost is a big factor here. So generation cost is one factor. Then it's storage, because it is a high pressure gas and you have to store at a few bars. So storage is another issue. Then transportation. Transportation is again a big issue because it is a gas. So again, you have to see the transportation, how safely you can do it. So all these things we are working on it, and most probably it will come in coming days. Government is paying a lot of attention on hydrogen. World over, people are paying a lot of attention on hydrogen, and it is the future fuel. Because this rare earth, other elements, not rare earth, other elements like lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, all they are creating a lot of problem due to mining and other issues, and very limited resources in few countries only. So a lot of issues are there with them. So this hydrogen is a global resource, and this I think most of countries can adapt if the cost come down. So that is one technology which is coming well. And now we come to our sodium technology. There are many more. So sodium, just 1 second, I will reduce my screen. Sorry. So Sunwaru, we are battery manufacturers, lithium battery manufacturers, but we have done one joint venture with Amity University and one research foundation in Korea to develop sodium ion cells ourselves. So we are working on this project, and this project is now taking shape, and we have developed some prototype also, and how it operates and everything I will cover in further slides. So this is one of the best technologies available, because you see sodium is available abundantly in India, like we are talking of aluminum. So similarly, because we don't want to bank on other countries for lithium and for other cobalt and other things. So why to bank? So government is focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat, and every one of us should contribute in that, because once we are independent of all these imports, then we can do wonders. We can do exports also. We can feed domestic market. We have a very big domestic market available with us. So we are doing this experiment, and we are working on this thing. So recently, many companies have developed this sodium cell. So CATL has done. Faradion is very old player and very popular player, and most of us has heard their name, and they are also doing good job in UK, Australia, and other places. Sorry. So what is happening? Why we should use sodium? Because we have limited resources of lithium raw material, and its scarcity is increasing the cost. Presently, like we are facing a lot of problem. Presently, what is happening? Lithium raw material cost has gone up by 10 to 15%. In some cases, it has gone 40 to 50% in some chemicals. But average, if you talk, it has gone up by 10 to 15%. So it is denting on the production of this thing also, because if your raw material cost is high, your finished product cost will be high. Secondly, we all are facing the problem of shipping. Nowadays, containers are not available, ships are not available. So the cells which were coming earlier in 15, 20, 25 days are coming now in 2 months. So all this is adding to your cost. Liquidity issues, cost is going up, and all these things are there. And that is the reason we should work hard to develop a local cell. Because till we are dependent on other countries, these things will keep on happening, and arm twisting will keep on happening, because every country has their own norms and they will try to twist our arm. So we should develop our own. So these all things are very important, and accordingly this advanced chemistry cell is very important. So we are talking of CATL, this thing, sodium cells. So I've shown some names in this thing presentation: Faradion of UK, Netron of USA, CATL of China, Acuan Energy of USA. They are the pioneers. I think they started earliest in this thing. Haina of China. Here Na is for sodium, and NIDES and few more are there. There is a long list of this. People are working. This is a fantastic technology which is coming. So Netron has raised some $30 million for this project. So this is just an announcement. Like CATL has also announced that they have come up openly now with sodium cell, and this they have announced in some last 1-2 fairs. This slide has come from a Korean counterpart, so some Korean is written on the top. So this is the cell they have developed, the CATL. This is Faradion. So on the left side you can see a cell which is of 3Ah cell, and right side there is a battery which is made of this cell. So here generally these cells are coming in polymer shape. So like in lithium we have mostly cylindrical in small capacities. Like if you talk of 2.6Ah and up till 6Ah, they are in cylindrical shape. But if you talk of bigger one like 40Ah single cell or 100Ah single cell, then they are prismatic. And then we have a pouch cell also now coming in lithium. So that will help in reducing the space which a cell takes in a battery, and also in the cost, because outer container is of aluminum or some other metal, so it becomes very costly. So this is the thing, and you see here on the top, if you see the negative and positive are joined together and it is written as short. So this shows that if you drain if you lower the voltage of the cell and transport, and if something happens, so the cell will not short. So that is the plus point of advanced chemistry cell. So a lot of new things are coming which were earlier were a problem while transporting and other things. So how it works basically, so I will show you. This is the figure how it works. So you have an anode which is generally of carbon, porous carbon, and then you have a cathode which is of sodium cobalt oxide. And while charging, the electrons goes from cathode to anode. This is the discharge thing, green one. Green is the your charging, and when you discharge, then the same electrons go in a reverse direction towards cathode. And there is a porous separator. This separator is there, and there is an electrolyte by name PF6. PF6 is some hexafluorophosphate. This is our inorganic substance. So you see, there is no acid, nothing like that, and carbon is also good element. Sodium and also will not create any problem to the environment. So these batteries are very environment friendly that way. So the working principle is that sodium moves from the positive electrode material and rest in the negative electrode material through electrolysis, right? So here, what is the main thing? We are using sodium in place of lithium. So friends, this is very important. Why it is important? Because this sodium cell is almost like a lithium in all characteristics, even in voltage, capacity, energy density. Mostly it is matching. Very small differences there. Most of the parameters are matching. So it is a very good element if we go with this thing. And the fantastic thing is that from the same equipment from which you are making lithium cells, you can make sodium cells. You need not change any equipment there. Because here what we do, we make some slurry in the initial time, we mix all the elements, and we make a black chemical, which is a liquid basically, and then we paste that liquid on your copper and aluminum cathodes and anodes. So same process here also we follow. We make same way the liquid and same black thing will come, same type of coating will happen. So process is same, right? So it becomes very fast if the plant and machinery is available for lithium. You can, with slight modification, you can do the production of sodium also in that. So this is another chemical which is known as Prussian blue. This Prussian blue basically is a, we add in cathode, because all these elements what are there, even in, if you see in lithium, if you talk of nickel, cobalt or manganese, they are loaded on cathode only. So cathode have all this thing. So here also we have a cathode of sodium cobalt oxide, and we mix Prussian blue. Now, what is the function of Prussian blue? Basically, Prussian blue increase the life cycle of the cell, because if you make a normal sodium cell, the life cycle is low. But if once you add Prussian blue, so it comes in thousands after that, right? So this chemical can be made in lab. I will show you how we have made in lab. So this chemical can be made in lab, and it is very simple process basically. And I am very hopeful that this technology will pick up very fast. So this is a very good technology. So Prussian blue is a non-inflammable atom and a very safe item, and it is added in the cathodic material. Formula is your, this is Fe is the iron, so you have a 4 valency of iron, then you have cyanide also in between with 6 valency. So this is Prussian blue is with the iron. So sodium becomes your sodium ferrocyanide. So earlier this ferrocyanide is what we are talking of the Prussian blue, and this is the ferrocyanide, and we mix with the sodium. So it increases the life cycle and improves the quality of the cell. And anode, I already informed you, it is mostly porous carbon anode, or maybe hard carbon. This thing, porous carbon is better. Graphite generally we don't use in this chemistry. In other chemistries we use graphite. So graphite is not used here because you need some porosity on the anode end. So that is the reason. So this we have how we have made in lab basically. So some small experiment we have done in our lab. This is the actual photo of our lab. So this we have done, and we have produced around 2 kg easily every day, and we can increase it also if required. So the process is same again. You mix up all the chemicals, and then you pour this chemical on anode and cathode plates, right? And then you do the cutting of those plates. Then you push and make a stack, then clamp, tap, pre-weld, main weld, and then you do pouch forming. Because here it is not a cylindrical or a prismatic cell, so you make a pouch out of it. This kind of pouch. This is the pouch cell. Okay, this kind of pouch we make. So you make a pouch, and then you do top-bottom sealing. First you do top sealing, then bottom sealing, then side sealing. Then you press it, then again laser weld, and then the cell is ready. So this is one example of the cell I have shown you here. Just 1 second. There's some issues. Just 1 second. Some slide I change. Just 1 second. Some problem has happened. No, yeah, now it is okay. Sorry for that. So we have developed this cell, and this is 3.3 volts cell. Like in LFP, we have 3.2 volt cell. So it is quite similar to that. And this is a 4H cell. And size of the cell is 100 mm by 150 mm by 4 mm. So 4 mm is the thickness. It is a pouch cell, and 100 and 150 mm. This is the length here, and this is the width here. So this is the pouch cell we have made. In higher capacities, we have made cell of 50H, which is again in 3.3 volt. So here the size is 260 by 300 mm, and here thickness is close to 12 mm. So these kind of cells are available, which are quite compact, high energy density and all that. and with very good life cycle. So this is the type of cell it looks like. This is your negative positive. So here the cell voltage is generally 3.3 volt. And if you add, then slight variation can happen in the voltage also. And volumetric energy density is close to 250 watt hour per liter. Specific energy density is close to 150 watt hour per kg. So you see all the parameters are matching with LFP. So what you are doing, you are making a lithium iron phosphates equivalent cell with no import content. So everything is your domestic, and you produce everything locally. System is not very tough except for putting the plant, because presently we don't have any cell manufacturing plant here in India. So other countries have cell manufacturing plants, so they can switch off very fast from lithium to sodium once they develop this technology. But we have to put a plant, so that may take another plant time is close to 1 year, more than 1 year sometimes also, depends. So a lot of companies are working on that. So cycle also here is a few thousand cycles, close to LFP again, close to 2000 cycles. Temperature range is also very good, -20 to +60. So India has that kind of temperature. Our ambient sometimes goes to 45, 48 in summers. And when you discharge any battery, then generally temperature of the cell goes up by 5 degrees. So even if your ambient is 48, it will go to 50 to 53, which is quite safe. So not a problem at all. And in your north and northeast, you have negative temperatures. So up till -20, it can work. So you see, it is a very good cell which has come up. So this one experiment we have done, I will show if it runs. Yeah, it is running. So you see to it. This is a cell now we cut this cell. Okay. I will explain you this thing fully. See, it is working. Now we remove the pouch and take out the anode and cathode out of it. It is still working. The light may not glow because the bulb has gone out of the reach at that time. But the anode and cathode are intact, so it will work. So the bulb has gone out of reach suddenly, out of the screen, in between. Yeah. But now when we cut it in another direction, then the anode and cathode are not in connect, so it will not work. What we do, nail penetration test in AIS 048, same test we are doing here. See, it will not work. Cell is damaged by puncturing, but when you do it in other direction, then your anode and cathode are intact and they will work. So you see, again we are cutting, and now your anode and cathode is intact, so it will work again. See, it is working. So this is the benefit if you go for advanced cell chemistry or these kind of things. So this is the benefit of the advanced cell chemistry. They are very safe. You do it with local raw material, so your cost is very low. Presently, we are spending so much of money in imports and through ships and cargoes and giving profits to other outside companies because they are doing business at 15 to 20 or maybe 25% profit. So this is a waste of money basically. So what government is focusing on doing the Atmanirbhar thing is the best thing one should do, and we all should contribute our maximum in that, so that we save all this cost. Lot of forex is going in this thing, and there is no point importing cell from there and doing balancing here, because that is the basic thing. In any battery, if you talk of lithium cost, the lithium cell is close to 60% cost of any battery pack. So 60% you are importing, you are giving profits outside, you are sending so many dollars outside. So if we work on sodium, or if we work on hydrogen, or if we work on aluminum, so these things are in our control, and we can do a wonderful job with this thing. We have one of the best brains available in India You see, world over, all the Indians are working. We have best of the brains, and we have now resources available also, and government will also is there to do. So I think it is the best time to do, and I'm happy to share my presentation with you, and I will be happy to attend questions later on or whenever the organizers ask for. So let's go for it. All the best from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your thank you for your session. For the second presentation of the session, please join me to welcome Mr. Sri Teja Julapalli, VP Engineering, LiveGuard, Star Electric Mobility. He is leading the lithium-ion battery development, BMS development, and creating a world-class battery analytics platform with 7 years of experience in this field. He founded Aspen Power in 2016, an IIT Kharagpur startup which makes four-wheeler electric retrofit kits. Sir, I now request you to proceed.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Pamela and Sunilji. We are again meeting here. I think after, I don't know, a month or so.
Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
how are you otherwise? All good?
Yeah, doing good. Everything is good. We met last month on all this subject only. Nice meeting you, and always happy to share knowledge and gain knowledge. So you have a great knowledge on the subject. Thanks for connecting, and we will be in touch in future also. Thank you.
Sure was. Thank you. So, can you see my screen?
I think it is not coming up till now.
You will get a request for presenting the sharing your screen. Please accept that, sir.
Hello, can you see my screen?
Yeah, now it is come. It has come.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Please continue.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Since Sunilji has taken a lot of time to take you through details of the sodium-ion batteries, I'll try to touch upon the more from an overview point of view. Especially in electrical energy storage, we divide into 3 or 4 or 5 categories. One is into age-old methods of mechanical type of storage, which is pumped hydro, flywheel, compressed air, and all that. And second is our electrochemical, which is about lithium-ion batteries, sodium-ion batteries, lead acid, nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride, and all that. And also, we are recently coming with flow batteries as well. So, especially in electrical terms, we have capacitors, supercapacitors, ultracapacitors, and all that. Chemical, we are going to hydrogen fuel cells, and thermal, we have sensible heat storage. So, mota, if you compare it, this is how we put all the energy storage into these 5 buckets. Now, if you talk about which purpose needs what kind of a storage, uh, this is how it will look like. When you're talking about seconds to minutes, we use different kind of a storage. Let's say we have a renewable energy sources set up, and there we want to store the energy, put into a battery bank, because it will be a lot of power coming up in a single instant. That's a different storage compared to you want to store the energy for a week, month, or a season, let's say. So that is how, the graph that you can see, which application needs what kind of a storage is what we are trying to show here. Now, when you talk about, power output, which is purely in terms of watt, and then, energy consumption in terms of watt hours for various energy storage technologies. One is that power. What are the battery which can give you high power? Sometimes they also offer a long time of duration. Sometimes they don't. So let's say, you want to take the energy out for a few seconds, a lot of energy, then you use supercapacitors. When you talk about minutes and all that, we use lead acid battery, lithium ion battery, and all that. When you want to store energy and then take it for hours and even days, we generally go with flow batteries. When that is going into few days, months, and things, then we use other kind of a mechanical energy storage systems, let's say pumped hydro or flywheels and all that. So when you especially talk about different battery technologies which are available, we have color coded this slide. So all the orange ones are primarily non-rechargeable batteries, which we have been using in our TV remotes, AC remotes, and all that. Then we have alkaline batteries, whether zinc carbon, nickel zinc, nickel cadmium, and all that. Initially, all the electric vehicles used to come with nickel metal hydride, the first of the generations. Then they have moved on to lead acid batteries, and then right now we are hearing about advanced lead acid. Then eventually lithium came into picture, where we have multiple chemistry like lithium cobalt, we have iron phosphate, which is more safe, and then we have manganese oxide when you have NCA, NMC, and lithium titanate as well. So when you talk about operating at a high temperatures, generally people go for sodium. So whether it is sodium sulfur or sodium nickel chloride. And then the new batteries which are coming up are on, especially on the flow battery side, vanadium redox and zinc bromide. And anyway, we have supercapacitors where you need high power for a smaller period of times. So whenever you talk about multiple batteries, all of us try to put the batteries or categorize the battery into specific application. So all of that will be done on based on these 3-4 parameters that we know of. One is energy density, where you're talking about how much energy you can store, let's say in a kg of the weight of the battery. And then you have round trip efficiency, which means that every time you charge the battery and you discharge the battery, how much power you have put in, the ratio of how much power you have put into how much you have taken out. And then the third one is the lifespan, where you talk about which battery is going to stay for how many years. And the fourth one, definitely, which need not be missed, is the whether there are any concerns in terms of environment or not. So right now, the emerging winner is clearly lithium-ion batteries, which is first, both in terms of energy density, round-trip efficiency, lifespan, and eco-friendliness. Then we have sodium-sulfur batteries, which are coming up. Then we have flow. Flow batteries generally take a lot of space, so they come on the third. And then your round-trip here energy source and then the consumption is at two different places, so their round-trip efficiency is slightly lower. Lifespan is good and eco-friendly is this way. So more or less, we have been right now moving from lead acid to lithium ion because of these 4 factors only, which is about energy density, round trip efficiency, lifespan, and eco friendliness. Purely from a technical point of view, if you leave the cost out. So, how the each of these batteries are moving forward, let's say, or what we think where they will be in, let's say, next 5-6 years is this way. So, we try to map with energy density, power density, safety, round trip efficiency, cost, and life cycle and self discharge. So right now what you can see versus what they can move to is this is how we are looking at it. So this is the reason when you look at this graph, you can clearly see that lithium ion batteries are emerging as a winners at this point in time because it covers most of the dimensions. And safety is something which people have to take care of and do a lot of engineering to keep these batteries safe. So that is one aspect we are working on. So if you cover that, and especially lithium ion batteries, they solve most of your problems, at least for the mobility and energy storage applications. So if we talk about mostly for next 0 to 5 years, let's say next 5 years, we see these kind of batteries which are emerging. One is high nickel in the NMC battery, which essentially means these are nothing but a lithium-ion battery where you can use less of a cobalt since it is controlled by the not available in the normal countries which are safe. So we are moving away to nickel, and they have high energy density. The only risk or the problem which people are trying to address here is that they have a limited life cycle. So cobalt gives you life. The moment you reduce the cobalt and you increase the nickel, there is an issue of thermal instability, safety concerns, and limited life cycle which people are trying to address. But these are really high energy density batteries, which most of the time we use in our two-wheelers because there is a space constraint, there is a weight constraint, all that. And we have sodium sulfur batteries, which give you really long life cycles. And sodium is really available in India as well. And we have high efficiency and low maintenance, whereas these batteries generally operate at high temperatures, as I said earlier, 300 to 350 degrees. And these batteries are generally supposed to be put at large containers. They are not to be made at very small scale systems. Even at a small system, it tends to go up on the cost side. So flow batteries, especially these, gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of operations and long cycle life, whereas cons would be, you need a lot of space to put the flow batteries, and they generally tend to higher cost again and lower on repair efficiency when you're talking about smaller systems. So flow batteries is generally considered to use in microgrid, mini grid application whenever they come up because of their size, where there is no, when you put up a battery there, it has to be there for let's say 5 years, then it can be used there. Then we always know about fuel cells. There again different types of fuel cells which uses hydrogen, which uses your methane, which uses different biofuels as well. So the specific fuel cell that we're talking about here is more about hydrogen and all. So they give you a lot of good energy density, high efficiency, low environment impact. But here the only problem is that you are having a multiple systems in place. So the generally cost tends to shoot up and the power density is slightly lower. So because you have to convert the water to hydrogen first, and then store the hydrogen, then liquefy it to store it, and then you put it in a container, then you take it somewhere else, and then you use a fuel cell to convert again it to, with the help of the air, convert it to energy. So generally the power density is low. And we have nickel, zinc, lead, carbon, and bipolar batteries. So bipolar batteries are something which are again a lead battery which people are talking about. They have slightly higher energy density than the normal existing lead acid batteries, and they have a good life cycle performance as well. But what is difficult is, leak proofing the cells is very difficult because we find acids in the batteries which are like sulfuric acid and all that. So proofing them is a bit tight when you have a bipolar batteries, and the capacity also is a limitation. If you talk about next 5 to 10 years, let's say 10 years down the line, so we feel that solid state batteries are going to take up sodium ion hybrid capacitors, so zinc air, silicon anode, and all that. So zinc air is high energy density, power density, long life you have, but you have low cycle. Though the long shelf life is highly important for your transportation and all that, low cycle life it is there. Silicon anode ion, we have high energy density, low self discharge, cost effective, but here we have low electrical conductivity and high volumetric fluctuations. Solid state is coming up where we have a kind of a prismatic cells or a power cells, and we have compact flexible design. Thermal issues will not be there. But the problem is that in terms of ionic conductivity, since it's a solid electrolyte, it becomes slightly tough. So hybrid again, sodium ion is also same. So we have hybrid capacitors here. Here we have high cyclic life, faster recharge, very quick, high energy power density. But the issue is very low energy density because it takes a lot of space, and the control is also very difficult to control hybrid capacitors, whether you want to operate how much in what kind of a time period. And it's also slightly on the expensive side. So these are used in some of the supercars basically to give that kind of an acceleration coupled with the batteries. Now, when you talk about how the cycles and round trip efficiencies matters for different batteries, as you can see, generally the sweet spot is in the middle, where lithium-ion batteries are giving you both about 4,000-5,000 cycles and also giving you 90 to 95% of round trip efficiency. Whereas lead gives you also about 80 to 90 round trip efficiency, where the cycles are low, up to 2,000. Whereas though you have vanadium flow batteries with a lot of life cycles, your round trip efficiency are 70 to 75%. So energy efficiency is generally more critical for large scale applications where the cost of lost energy due to low efficiency is matters much more than your life cycles. So wherever your efficiency of the lost energy matters, there you use these kind of batteries, and where you need high energy efficiency, but a medium life cycle works, their lithium ion batteries can be used. So no, this is all about the different cells, different chemistries, and different batteries. So I'll just try to talk you through what as an ethos that we follow at Livguard while we design the batteries. So generally, these are the common misconceptions when anyone designs a battery. The first one will be superiority of one chemistry over another. So as we talked for the past 10 minutes, that is not the reality. So every specific application needs every specific kind of a chemistry, which is engineered to that particular application for that particular vehicle, let's say, or for usage conditions or operating conditions. So the second one is superior to one form factor or another. What do I mean? This is we have different kind of cells. One is cylindrical, one is prismatic, one is pouch, even the coin cells. So if you, especially, let's take an example of a laptop. If you just take there and if you want to put a high prismatic cell there, it doesn't just work. So people used to put coin cells, and then they eventually used cylindrical cells for the main and the primary energy storage, and they moved on to pouch cells now with the compact form factors in the laptops and tablets which are coming up. Myth 3 is again battery pack cost is a set ratio between cell to balance of pods. This is something which is absolutely not true. And fourth is cycle life. People say that there is a certain particular kind of a defined cycle life without talking about the operating conditions and the usage conditions and the applications where the batteries are being used. So that doesn't make any sense. And then we have about thermal management, how much, why, how you want to do it. And the sixth one is about battery pack development with OEM engagement, which is highly critical, is what we feel. When we talk about OEM, we especially mean that vehicles, the vehicle manufacturers. So when you talk about, let's go one by one. So if you talk about lithium ion battery chemistry and their superiority, we have tried to map from both LCO to NCA, LFP, NCM, and titanate to manganese oxide as well. When you compare with specific energies, energy densities, typical discharge rates, thermal runaway, nominal voltage, and characteristics, you can clearly see in this table that every application needs different kind of chemistries to be chosen. You just take an example of a, let's say, two-wheeler. In a two-wheeler, when the LFP energy density is really less compared to an NMC or an NCA, the energy density here is 100 to 300 watt-hour per kg, whereas NCA is 400 about. So when you don't have a space in a two-wheeler, which is very compact, you can't just put LFP pack, though it is highly safe. So you have to find a way to give the necessary energy which is required for it to propel in the specific dimensions. So you have to go with the certain chemistries and not go with certain chemistries just because people do so. So what is the reality here? Reality is nothing but the battery chemistry selection is an intrinsic part of the battery pack design, and there is no one golden rule of one chemistry being superior to other. And right chemistry for the right cell application is the answer. So while we even do any kind of, whenever any OEM or any customer that we get in Livguard, we take him through, we educate them through all this, and we say that we are going to specifically design the battery packs for them for their particular applications and users and vehicles as well. Whereas people try to think of lithium ion battery as a commodity, where this is not the case, which we are trying to say. So when you are talking about a form factor superiority, which is in terms of cylindrical or prismatic or a pouch, see, you have best energy density in a cylindrical, and you also have good packing efficiency here. But what it lacks is, it is not very thin, and the weight is also okay. And volumetric efficiency is average. Where it has superior is when you have a metal container which is enclosing the entire cell. So there is no swelling that you can expect after a lot of time, some kind of a time. So all that will be covered up in the cell itself. So whereas when you look at the prismatic energy density is better, but the size and the cost per watt hour is normally average. It's slightly costlier than the cylindrical. When you talk about a polymer or a pouch, there the swelling happens. So you have to specially take care of this in the design. How much pressure you want to put on a pouch cell, how well you want to maintain it, and all that. So the form factor also, you can't, it just always has to be depending on the constraints and the applications. So different vehicle segments benefit from different form factors. Two-wheeler, three-wheeler segment cylindrical cells offer the best alternative when you have Or let's say when you want a pack which looks like a banana, which Vola does, or which when you want to design a pack which looks like a S or something, or a swappable pack, then probably cylindrical cells will help you because of their dimensional distinct flexibility as well, because they are small and they can be arranged in different form factors. And also cost of cell to cost of pack, generally people assume this is a constant ratio. Let's say here also we have shown that cell is almost 50%, then we have BMS, which is like the heart of the entire battery, which is overlooking the safety, performance, and different things on the battery. And then we have a thermal management system, which lets a cooling pack, active, passive, whatever you say it. And then we have, logistics and others and warranties, everything put together. So generally, let's say there is a pack, and when you increase the size of the pack, it doesn't necessarily mean that your thermal management is going to be increased or your BMS cost is going to be increased. So just taking a standard practice of saying that this much I'm buying the cells at a certain price, so the pack should come out at a certain price, doesn't work. There is no one single ratio or a weightage to translate the cell cost into a pack cost. It's just a function of multiple things, and also function of volumes and all this. The BMS also should, basically comprise of automotive grade components, and we tend to put a lot of effort into, engineering the right BMS for a specific application and refining it further and further. We have been doing it for the past 7 years now. Still, we feel that we are not there, but we are still better. So to build a world-class BMS, we feel that it takes a lot of engineering efforts, both in terms of all the productions that you have to create, all the kind of charging strategies, discharging strategies, and what kind of estimations, accuracies, algorithm that you're writing, all that matters. So that's kind of a lot of engineering which goes into the pack. It's just not, getting the cells from China and packing them, putting them together and saying that this is the pack. So we don't believe in that kind of an approach. So the fourth one is regarding the cycle life. Definition of cycle, we believe that it should be, counted by Coulomb counting. The area which is regulated discharge current can be used to calculate the number of cycles the battery has been subjected to. So we try to give you a, some kind of an example here. So when people talk about life, and again there is also one more this thing which is called end of life, which people tend to hear. It's generally defined as a percentage of the retained energy compared to the day one energy. So on your day one, if you have, let's say, 100 watt hour energy, and you're saying 80 watt hour is what I'm getting at after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, which is generally treated as an end of life. And this is not neither any accepted norm, it's just generally used that 80% of the initial days will be treated as an end of life. Now there is one more term which we all of us should know, which is usable capacity. They're subjected to 100% of the rated capacity. They generally tend to be kept in the range of 75 to 85% of their rated one. This is just to keep the cell safe, also give you a lot of life, and to reduce the issues which comes at the lower voltages and at the very higher voltages. And then people talk about C rates, which are like, what kind of current that you're trying to get out of the battery. We hear about point phase charging, point phase discharging. It goes up to 1C, it goes up to 2C, 3C as well. When you talks about an application which is like VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing machines, so there people are talking about 6C power ratings expected out of a lithium-ion batteries. So that's a different piece of engineering altogether compared to designing a battery which is a point phase. So here, let me just show you what we talk about cycle life. As a function of temperatures, in the first graph you see 45 degrees in 1500 cycles the battery came to end of its life. Whereas at 23 degrees, it has took 2750 cycles, which is roughly about 100% more or 80% more. So that's the kind of difference when you talk about life cycles. When you talk about cycles as a function of depth of discharge or usable capacity, see every growth is different, right? When you're using a less of an energy each time, the cycles are going on. To reach 90%, it is taking some 1600 cycles. Whereas to reach 80% in the 100% DOD, 1500 cycles you are able to reach the end of life. And again, so different C rates also. At 24 you can see how that is behaving. At 40, when it is 0.3, 0.1, when it is 0.5, 0.5. And all these experiments we also for every cell that we pick, we conduct all these experiments. We have been picking few cells at Livguard for the past 4 years and trying to do all this experimentation so that we can come and conclude saying that for this particular use case, for this particular application, where these are the operating conditions, this battery cell would be very good, and this kind of a BMS and this kind of algorithms has to be used to give you best output out of this pack. So when people talk about again thermal management, they just say that you put a fan and you put a cooling channel and it'll be done. So we don't believe in that. So we go phase wise manner. First, we talk about system analysis where we involve the vehicle requirements, system architecture, what are the operating conditions, and then we calculate, we do the simulations, one-dimensional stationary transient, and then we do the efficiency analysis. After that, we go ahead and do the cell analysis, cell modeling, where we'll talk about especially about the chemistry and inner configuration, how the heat is getting conducted, what kind of thermal resistance we have, what is the kind of aging behavior, and then we do the cell testing, and then we do some kind of a dummy analysis, and then we do the battery model for simulation. This is also 1D, and then we go to thermodynamic design, and then we do the prototyping again. Then we do the component tests. So all of this will involve, what are the every level will have its own this thing, and whenever we feel that the results are not clear, we again go to the drawing board and start this process again. So this takes a whole lot of engineering. To the whole point is where people say that there is only one way to package the cells and put it in the market. We don't believe in it. So generally, how we talk about OE engagement, typical RFQ and proposed discussion is this way. Whenever somebody comes with a, let's say there is a statement of requirement for them, so we talk about what kind of current ratings, power ratings, what are the ideal things that they're expecting, what are the kind of discharge rates, what are the kind of cell chemistry that they prefer, and what kind of operating temperatures, whether they want to use it in the Rajasthan, Kashmir, or whether they're going to use it in Tamil Nadu, it will make a difference. And what kind of cycle life that they're promising to the customer, and what is expected of the vehicle. They want the vehicle to give you high performance for 5 years, or they want to make a vehicle which is reliable for the next and robust for the next 10 years, which way it is. And any balancing that they want, any cooling that they're expecting, or they can have any provision in the vehicle also. What kind of pricing that they look at. So and honestly, in any electric vehicle, 50% of the cost go into the battery itself, which is something which is evident to every one of us. So the pack manufacturer should be an integral part of the vehicle design from the start itself, so that we can add maximum value, and and not merely act as a vendor. So the point is, we are very clear, all these were myths, and we just say that we believe in lithium pack engineering, and one has to go through a lot of process and engineering and steps to make sure one gets the pack right. That's what we believe in. So again, as a summary, we say that first we start with cell selection, we select the right chemistry, and then we select the right cell format, whether it's cylindrical, prismatic, pouch, and then the specific vendors, and then we talk about application specific needs like energy density, power density, cycle life. And then the second step would be in finalizing the BMS and its architecture, where you need a single board or you need multiple boards with a master configuration, where the application needs battery paralleling or not. And then we talk about scalability of different voltages and how good our algorithms are depending on the specific use cases, applications, what kind of charging strategies, and etc. And then we talk about packaging, which is purely mechanical. And we talk about mechanical integrity, IP class, electrical safety, any redundancies that we want to build in BMS and thermals, and how can we keep it safe in terms of thermal management. We do the drive cycle analysis for the thermal impact. Then we talk about mode of cooling, and we also go back to the OEMs and request them for any kind of modification that they have to do on the vehicle if they have to use these battery packs efficiently. And then finally, the vehicle integration comes into picture, where we integrate, we do the calibration of the battery with their controller, their motors, and all that. We analyze the drive cycle requirements, and then finally we do the VC integration. And let me tell you, all the batteries that we put are always put with the smart BMSs, and we don't go with a normal simple production circuit models, because we believe in the safety and the performance of the pack. And we are well aware of the fact that it takes time to prove that any battery pack which is a good one, for it to show some results in the field. But we tend to take that approach. We always monitor through our cloud platform all the battery packs that we put on the market, how they are behaving, how they are performing, so that any feedback, can we improve it even further, or we can give any over there updates. So we also give a Bluetooth app, and also we have provide a software along with that, so that the customer also can learn about their batteries better. So doing all this work, so we have already launched this product in the market, which is the e-rickshaw battery pack. As you can see, it is it's highly compact in size, and it weighs up only about 27-28 kgs, which is an 80Ah, which is like a 4 kWh pack. And also we have the one more extension of the same pack, which is 100Ah, which weighs about 35. Now, when the battery pack that you see in the market, which are being used in the e-rickshaws, generally are about 50-55 odd kgs, where we are talking about some 29 to 35 kgs. And this pack can clearly operate between 0 to 55. Charge currents are 0.5 C, discharge currents are up to, we go up to 1 C, but for e-rickshaw application, we go up to 40 and 60 amps. This is the IP67 battery pack. We have an Bluetooth, we have an Android application also which support this. Even the connectors also we fix it on the battery so that there is no loose connections or anything. No. So basically what we want to say is we don't compromise with the safety, performance and quality as far as the batteries are concerned. See, most of the packs that you see on the market comes with the, in terms of your metal casing, sheet metal components and all that, whereas we use especially go for aluminum. When you look inside the pack as well on the right side, when you look at the cross section, you see that there are pure nickel bus bars, long life thermal pads, special alloy interliners. We have a durable aluminum housing which won't, aluminum doesn't get rusted, right? So that's what we use. Fixed mountings, SOC indicators and all that. So that is how we have developed this 80H and 100H packs. Similarly, we have a, what all you will get if you are actually talking about lithium ion batteries of Livguard. If they're all lightweight, as I told, it's like 60-70% of the other batteries which we have in the market. We have good thermal pads. We have a smart BMS which is always monitored and also connected to the cloud always. And then we have automatic grade secondary protections like fuses. We have waterproof boxes in all the batteries that we develop. We have compact design with dual handles, fixed connectors, thermal conductive casings, and app-based diagnostics. Even something is happening, you do not wait for our control, the service guys to reach you. You can do your preliminary diagnosis. The app can perform itself and help you get it corrected. So similarly, we have a two-wheeler packs which are like our 48 volt 40H and 48 volt 30H packs, which especially goes into the two-wheeler segment. And also we have for higher voltage two-wheelers, we have 60 volt 35H packs. So this is our portfolio as of today, and thank you so much. Any questions? I'll be happy to take later after all the guests speak.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable time and presentation. It will help us all greatly. Now, for the third presentation, I would like to invite Mr. Udit Kaul, Deputy Manager, Electrical and Electronics Group, ICAT. Sir, I now request you to proceed.
So good afternoon to all, respected Pamela ma'am, Dr. Joshi, and my colleagues from the automotive industry. I'm Udit Kaul, Deputy Manager, Electrical and Electronics Group, ICAT, responsible for testing and homologation of all energy storage systems. I would first of all like to thank my fellow speakers, Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar and Mr. Sriteja, for giving us this enlightening talk. So first of all, I would like to brief about my company, International Center for Automotive Technology. So this is an automotive testing and R&D infrastructure project established by NATREP in Manesar. We provide services for testing, validation, design, and homologation for all automotive vehicle as well as components. And we were established in 2006. Currently, the human resource is about 583. We are situated in Manesar, which is about 38 kilometers from Delhi Airport. We have two operation centers. Center 1 is about 8 acres, and Center 2 is about 46.6 acres, which are approximately 8 kilometers apart. So we have an investment at ICAT of about 1350 crores under National Automotive Testing and Research and R&D Infrastructure Project NATREP, which was made by Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. So this is basically the authorization status of ICAT. We are authorized for type approval and COP under rule number 126 of CMVR. We are also authorized by CPCB for emission and noise type approval of generator sets. The accreditation status, we are IS 17025 accredited, and we are also accredited by VCA UK London, which is since 2008. We are also CAFE Secretariat by MOT. We are BAIS recognized for testing of tires, safety classes, SI engines for agriculture spares, CI engines, LED lamps, and UPS systems. The entire facility for both the centers, is ISO 9001 certified, 14001, ISO 45001. This facility is also recognized by CEDO. We have a lot of certification partners in different countries. Some of them would be KIAPI Korea, IDIADA Spain, NRCS South Africa, TUV Rheinland, TUV Sud, TUV Nord. We have MOUs with KIAPI Korea for certification work, Qatar China for certification as well as development work, Millbrook UK for joint development and certification work, Brunel University UK for electric powertrain, Alvin National Lab Chicago US for powertrain, Ohio State University for NVH, Hangzhou ORD in China for the business development in China. This brings me to the validation part of the battery system, which majorly is categorized into four subheads. First of them being performance, then certification, life testing, and safety. Performance tests would be categorized in different four subheads. First would be electrical performance, environmental performance, mechanical or physical performance, then application specific performance. So electrical performance tests at ICAT, we do all kind of charge and discharge capacity tests under various conditions of temperature as well as humidity. So we do charge efficiency tests as per various standards, discharge efficiency tests in which we calculate the efficiency of charging and discharging after say suppose 1,000 cycles of battery pack and see how much charge is left. Retention of charge is basically we store the battery for 1 year and then see the effect of that storage, that ideal condition of the storage on the battery performance. We do pulse power characterization in this. High rate of charging and high rate of discharging is done till the depth of discharge is reached. All this is the customer driven specifications, and we also do internal resistance measurement for battery packs. This is environmental performance test at ICAT. In this, you would see battery system, chroma system, and environment chamber. We do study effect of high and low temperatures on the cells and the module and pack. In this, we do damp heat test, which is about 168 hours. The cell and the pack is made to go through various different cycles of temperature, humidity, and then the charge efficiency is calculated. Thermal shock. In thermal shock, we basically put the cells and we study the effect of thermal shock, as in for 4 hours the cell or the module is kept under high temperature, that is 70 degrees Celsius around, and then within 10 seconds the temperature has to be changed to -20. So after that we calculate the charge efficiency of the battery pack and see the effect of thermal shock in case of any. Then salt spray. In salt spray, there's a solution of 5% NaCl solution, and we study the effect of the solution onto the enclosure of the battery pack. Same as that case of water and dust. We study different level of IP ingress protections of water and dust, mainly IP65, 67. This is mechanical performance test at ICAT. We do have 6 numbers of vibration shakers, ranging from 3 ton to 6 ton. And we are also in process of procuring a 12 ton vibration shaker. In this we can also study the combined effect of temperature as well as the vibration onto the modules and the pack which are used for electric vehicles. For shock test, we can go about 500 G for smaller cells and smaller modules. Clamp tightening test is basically for the terminals, for the tightness of the terminals. So this was an application-specific performance that we did for a semi-hybrid retrofit MUV, where it was required to go through high rate of charge discharge cycles for very short duration, and hence increasing the chances of thermal runaway with the negative effect of life. So an experiment was conducted to perform temperature profile characterization on LFP batteries based on different charge and discharge cycles. But these charge and discharge cycles were, however, derived from a pattern of SUV during combination of random city and highway cycling. So safety testing at ICAT is usually penetration test, short circuit test, overcharge, force discharge, over temperature, high altitude, fire resistance. So this is the basically short circuit setup. All this is made in-house, and this is the MEBL 17025 regulated. The penetration and mechanical integrity in this cells or modules at different voltage level, at different SOC level are penetrated, and hence the study is made on what is the temperature, the pressure rise inside the cell is studied. This is high altitude test. We study the effect of high altitude on the cells and the modules. We also do fire resistance test. We study the effect of fire on different modules, different chemistry modules. In this, for about 6 to 8 seconds, the battery is transferred to through the fire, and then the effect is studied. So this is fire test, and this is crush test. In this, the purpose of this test is to verify the safety performance of RESS under different contact loads which may occur during vehicle crash. Load effect of on voltage was also monitored through this test. So this was a special purpose test which we did for a battery pack used in bus, and we had to check the leakage in the enclosure and the coolant pipe of the battery pack system. So this is the IP test rig, and we can do all sorts of IP exits for water for the enclosure used for battery packs and modules. This is a drop test. We need to check the damage of the electrolyte flow or fire or explosion which may occur due to unintended drop. So life cycle testing is there. We do pack and cell cycler facilities. We have more than 50 channels are available, ranging from 600 watt to 80 kilowatt. Voltage range of about 1.5 volt to 1000 volts, and current ranges up to 1200 ampere is available. Power ranges up to 720 kilowatt. So in short, we can do a life cycle test for about 0 to 1000 volts and 1200 amperes pack. Systems of Messrs. Bytrode and Chroma are there, and also Keysight SignLab we have added. All data logging and analysis capabilities are there. Temperature control using chambers and water bath possible. Now, there are multiple channels, so we can use them in parallel to increase the current rating. So this is a kind of life cycle test that we do. We also use hot water bath. So about 960 cycles in this test were conducted. Each cycle consisted of different charging rate at higher temperature, and a water bath was used till EOD, that is 10.5 volts. Life cycle test on cell level. This test was basically endurance life cycle test on a pouch cell, NMC. About 500 cycles were conducted. Each cycle consists of different charge and discharge rates at C3 with ambient temperature. So this is on the left. This is basically the exclusion proof chamber that we have. So all the testing right now has been done in exclusion proof chambers itself. So cell characterization, so life cycle is basically done because cell characterization is needed on different temperatures. This is the setup for the nail penetration test, and this also is exclusion proof. Temperature logging can also be done. Temperature and pressure logging can also be done during the test in this. So this was a life cycle validation which we did by Coulomb counting. This project was basically done for a battery used lithium-ion battery pack used in robots. We had to perform endurance life cycle test for the state of charge of hemp. So in this method was called Coulomb counting because we actually count the number of Coulombs leaving the battery pack and getting into it, and thus the decrease in voltage throughout the life of the battery. We do a lot of right now. We do a lot of battery management validation also. So single ECU, we have hardware in loop system. Single ECU for functional endurance testing is done. So sensor and node simulation for BMS can also be done through this. So we also have EMC test facilities for BMS as well as the entire battery pack. The chamber is approximately 8.5 meters, 7 meters, 6 meters in size. A wide range of outboard and onboard radiated and immunity antennas are there. So this is the battery emulator that I was talking about, 720 kilowatt source during monitoring and same during regenerative can be done. Maximum output current is 1200 amps. And voltage output is 1000 amps, however not exceeding the limit for power, which is 750 kilowatt. We have three different UCAR level 7 explosion proof battery testing chambers of different sizes. One is 750 mm by 750 mm by 800, then 1000 cube, and then 2500 cube. So all these are there with smoke detection and diffusion systems. We have White-Road cycler and emulators for battery and HCV. Number of channels, total number of channels are about 41, ranging for different voltage and ampere ratings with different power and accuracy ratings as well. This is the complete list of standards that are there for enable that we are accredited with Enable for. Majorly certification. First, we are basically certification standards for automotive domain, AS48, 156, and 38. 156 is for two-wheeler systems, 38 for bigger packs for commercial vehicles. We are also accredited for Gulf testing for lead-acid storage batteries and also for lithium-ion and NMC cells also. We right now just a month back we also acquired A2LA accreditation, which is American Association for Laboratory Accreditation. So we can also do testing for battery packs in India for US. And other secondary cells and battery containing alkaline or non-alkaline systems also. So this is my mail ID, udit.call@icare.in. You can probably post your questions on this email ID for any further queries. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the presentation. Now, moving towards our session for the session. Now, I would like to request Mr. Anoop Kakkar, ED, SANIS to speak few words about SA. We welcome you, sir. So kindly unmute yourself.
Namaskar, thank you, and good evening. We have had a very enlightening 3 sessions, each covering different areas for battery management on a topic of relevance. So basically, the whole webinar has been organized, and SANIS is grateful to ICAT and Aspire for associating us in our achieving our vision of lifelong learning and knowledge sharing. In fact, SANIS is the platform for building leaders. And when I say leaders, I use it as an acronym because it leverages, it empowers, it appreciates, it improves the decision-making skills, it improves the efficiency, and it helps in building relationships through whatever activities that we are doing. And all of you have been a very strong partner in the growth journey of SANIS for the last 20 years. Yes, the current pandemic situations for the last 2 years nearly did hamper our activities without any bias. The automotive fraternity was also majorly impacted by it and had seen a severe slowdown. We took it as a challenge to recover from the lull that was caused. Our leaders in the governing board of SANIS successfully organized 3 major events in 2020-21. FECycle 2020, which is a hybrid tricycle competition for engineering students, the 3rd Thermal Management Conference, and the 3rd Summer School on Automotive Technologies, all virtually. Our membership team of Mr. Sandeep Rana and Mr. Yashpal from Honda, with their efforts, we were able to cross the 4-figure mark of members as on 31st March 2021. And it was all because of the support rendered by you. And my expectation now will be that if the 50-odd participants who are here today, if they become members of SAE, definitely we'll become number 1 in SAE India. And for the benefits that we provide to all our members, there is a handout which I'm sure you at your leisure should go through to tell you exactly what we are doing. For going forward for 21-22, our leaders on the governing board and the leadership team have taken on new challenges, basically to increase the reach of events, conferences to a much larger audience. And therefore, I personally see a tremendous scope for further increasing the value addition for our members, besides our regular flagship events like FECycle and AWIM. The idea was that members should get exposed to the disruptions that are happening or likely to happen in the industry. And today's topic is one such area. But some of those activities or events that are already in the pipeline are the first ever futuristic competition for students on autonomous vehicle under the Indian driving conditions. Students would come up with scenarios and challenges after being trained on Indian driving conditions. Introduction of a 4-wheel electric vehicle category in FECycle 2021 in a biohybrid. A motion in control, a vehicle dynamics conference scheduled with the test tracks of ICAT from 17th to 20th November, and then a 4-day virtual conference from 1st to 4th of December. We have also come up with new solutions in this situation or in these times of the pandemic, because most of the activities are happening virtually. Now, I think we as a group, we need to channelize more collaborative propositions between the academia, the industry, and we can be a channel partner for that, for basically solving the ever impending environmental and sustainability issues associated with the transportation and energy sector. And Aspire is one such platform through which, between Aspire and SAE NIS, we can really come up with some good solutions for the Indian industry and for the nation. We'll continue to put concerted efforts for dissemination of technical knowledge and inspiring young engineers for deep analysis of real-life problems through use of a systematic approach and statistical analysis. Thank you so much, and I hope you had happy learnings during these deliberations over the last 1.5 to 2 hours. Thank you once again, and all the best, and a very happy Diwali to all of you and the family.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would request Mr. Devesh Parekh, Manager of Electrical and Electronics Group, ICAT, to conclude the session. Sir, please.
Thank you, Asta. And what a wonderful day we had today. There were very good speakers that we had. We had very good topics that were covered. And it was really very interesting. I hope you all had a great time. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Devesh. And first and foremost, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the speakers for sparing their valuable time to address this gathering, and for highlighting the issues and challenges that we need to deliberate on going forward. The topics covered today are very relevant to the overall adoption of e-mobility in our country and the role that battery technology has to play in this direction. We convey our sincere thanks to all the speakers who have agreed to be a part of this event, all the delegates for signing in huge numbers. Special thanks to Aspire and SAE NIS for supporting this event. We are also extremely grateful to Ms. Pamela Tikku, CBO ICAT, for constantly supporting us and encouraging us to organize these events on topics that are relevant to the industry and current trends. I thank all the members of the organizing committee and all my colleagues who have been involved in this particular exercise for last several months. Without their support and cooperation, this conference would not have been possible. Thank you all once again for joining, and we look forward to organize many more similar conferences in future. Wishing you all a very happy and prosperous Diwali. Thank you so much.
We, on the behalf of Aspire and ICAT, once again thanks all the speakers of the session for gracing today's webinar with your presence and wonderful presentation. Thank you all the delegates and attendees for your attention. I hope you found today's webinar informative and useful. Thank you all for signing in. I will be concluding this webinar. Wishing you all a nice day ahead. Happy Diwali. Stay safe, stay healthy.